Okay, come back and see us. Okay, you're gonna have a great time tonight. Welcome everyone to the MPTF campus and the Susan and Gary Martin screening room. We are pleased to present you with this event tonight. Before we get started though, I want to introduce and welcome on stage a good friend of MPTF's, Melissa Abbott, General Partner, Olympics Marketing, Delta Airlines. Delta has been one of MPTF's longest corporate sponsors and are sponsoring the event tonight. And we thank the airline and our good friend and wonderful in her new role, Melissa. So she has a few words for you.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. I'm so happy to be here representing Delta. As Bob mentioned, Delta has been a longtime sponsor of MPTF. We participate in the evening before, the night before, events like this. Our mission is to connect the world. We are celebrating our 100th anniversary this year as an airline. We're the first commercial airline to do so. And you know, we really invest our time and resources in the communities where we live and serve. And so we are very much looking forward to continuing to serve MPTF and the communities for the next 100 years to come. You're going to see a Delta trailer in a little while, but before that, we hope you enjoy tonight's screening and panel, and to Bob.
Listen, before you leave the stage, is it true you said you started as a crop dusting airline?
Monroe, Louisiana, 100 years ago.
I think people in the audience were thinking, how can they be flying an airline for 100 years?
We've come a long way since then.
No films on those original, like great peanuts, I understand. Okay, now it's time for me to welcome an industry veteran, a friend of MPTF's and mine, and an amazing person, Claudia Eller. She's going to be the interviewer for this evening. Claudia had a legendary career in journalism, starting out at Variety as a film reporter, then 20 years as a reporter for the LA Times, and then back to Variety as editor-in-chief. She's among the best known and respected entertainment journalists, and most recently she's been working with us on this legendary film series, lining up this one tonight, and she has a Jamie Lee Curtis screening coming up. She has a Jerry Bruckheimer screening coming up.
True
I'm
lies.
stealing all her thunder. But she's going to come out and introduce the folks that she's interviewing tonight. So give a big welcome to Claudia Eller.
And let's see. Yeah, I don't recognize any of you, but I probably know half of you. So anyway, we appreciate you coming and hope you enjoy the panel, and I hope you enjoy the movie. I think you will. I just recently rewatched Primal Fear. Amazing, amazing. I mean, if you haven't seen it, do yourself a favor and see it. So let's bring out our two panelists. We have KOCH, and Edward Norton.
That's how you pronounce that. Sorry, I blew you guys eardrums out.
Sorry. Before you get started, can we get a picture with everybody first?
Sure.
All right.
Sure. You guys want to come in?
Oh, yeah.
Stand up? Yeah. Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah, stand up and look this way.
Okay.
Over here. But gather in, like you like each other. Very straight, like you're squeeze. Bob's giving my mom. We're gonna get there.
How's that
It's
so
all
far?
All right, ready? 1, 2. All right, great, thank you.
Are we on? Yeah, we are.
Hello?
Hello. Okay, let's get started, boys. So I think most of you in this room probably know KOCH. I mean, he's an absolutely successful producer. He's a veteran of the business who's worked in Hollywood for more than 60 years. May I say that?
Yeah.
Okay. And over the decades, he's been intimately involved with the making of more than 60 movies, including such classics as Chinatown, Heaven Can Wait, The Way They Were, Marathon Man, Wayne's World, I think 1 and 2, correct?
Yes.
All right. Rosemary's Baby,
What?
and of course, Primal Fear, which the two
Wow.
of these gentlemen did together. Subsequently, Hawk has collaborated with some of the best actors and filmmakers in the business. Roman Polanski, Jack Nicholson, Francis Ford Coppola, John Schlesinger, Barbara Streisand, Dustin Hoffman, Faye Dunaway, Warren Beatty, Alan Pakula, and of course, Ed Norton. And that's not enough. Hawk was the former president of the Motion Picture Academy and the past president of the Producers Guild of America. And during his tenure at the Academy, he spearheaded a lot of different very important initiatives, including launching the organization's first ever general membership meeting in its history, in the organization's history. And he also sharpened the focus on member engagement and the future of filmmaking, and he helped secure funding, major funding for the museum. Have you guys been to the Academy Museum? It's amazing. That is, congratulations, that's, you know. And then at the Producers Guild, he worked aside co-president Mark Gordon to help preserve, they fought to preserve the producers' credit and restore that its value, you know, to producers, because, you know, suddenly you would see 50 producers listed on a movie, and certainly, you know, it takes a lot, but not 50 producers, and they would get equal credit. So these guys were successful in getting all the major studios and the independents to band together and hold up the producer's PGA mark, which is a very specific, special mark, and you have to, there's certain qualifications for you to get that mark.
You have to do the work.
Yeah, you actually have to do that, right? And of course, Hawk serves on the board of the Motion Picture and TV Fund, and is very, very involved with what goes on here behind the scenes at the home.
Yes, just for 1 second, I
Yeah.
have to give a shout out to Victoria Bullock and the great quillers that are here.
Now, bring things to those who don't know. I mean, I happen to know, but about
Is that a
the
casting
Quillers.
director? Victoria?
On Thursdays from 10 to 12, in a building over here, a bunch of residents of the home, actors, writers, prop men, script supervisors, whatever in the business, get together and they read
Nice.
probably something they've written, a memoir piece, somewhere between 5 and 8 minutes of their lives. And they are heartwarming, funny, heart-wrenching. Every week I can't wait to be there to hear what stories they've told. And by telling a memoir story, something deep inside them that maybe other people didn't know, once one of them says, oh, maybe I can write about that, you know, and then the next week someone else will write something so personal and so important in their lives. It's like it's probably 24 of them, and it's great.
It's every Thursday, right?
Every Thursday, and they allow me to sit there with them, so I'm very happy to be with them. So thanks, Great Quillers.
Okay.
And thank you, Victoria.
And in 2019, Hawk published his memoir, Magic Time, My Life in Hollywood. And if you haven't read it yet, you have to read it. I was hoping, and I should have reminded you to bring some books so you could have signed them for everybody, but...
Well, a couple of people brought books, and I did.
Oh,
sign
okay,
them.
there you go, there you go. Anyway, fabulous book. It's fantastic, it really is. I mean, I laughed so hard. It was just, and it was so brutally honest, and, you know, candid, I told you all that. Ed Norton. Born in Boston, a Bostonian. Ed is a 3-time Oscar nominee. He studied at Yale, and for a time, 4 times? 4 times, sorry. Thank God Hawk's here. Thank God Hawk's here. I always needed an editor. Right, yeah, producer. And for a time you lived in Japan, right? So I want to hear about that later, but he was nominated, now I'll need your help. He was nominated for a Golden Globe and a Best Supporting Actor Oscar for his role in Primal Fear. And then he earned another Oscar nomination for portraying a very scary neo-Nazi, that's redundant, in American History X. And then yet another, there was another one that I forgot.
Somebody called
Score?
Pete Seeger in the
Oh,
recent-
right, I'm so sorry. Yes, oh my God. He played Pete Seeger, the folk legend, in A Complete Unknown, you know, about the life in times of Bob Dylan, starring Timothy Chalamet. But I gotta say, I'm not just blowing smoke up your ass. You stole the show as Pete Seeger. You really did. And then he made his directorial debut on Keeping the Faith, which Hawk also produced. And was also in Down in the Valley, The Painted Veil, which I loved, The Illusionist, which was incredible, Grand Budapest Hotel, Wes Anderson's movie. No. Oh, yes, yes. The Incredible Hulk, Birdman,
Fairly brother.
and we mentioned Complete Unknown.
I was in your E2.
Okay, Birdman. Birdman. Okay, take note, Claudia. And then Glass Onion,
Stone.
Knives Out, Misery.
Ryan
Right.
Coogler? No, not Ryan.
And then you also adapted, directed, and starred in Motherless Brooklyn. Yeah. Quite a resume.
The Score.
Pardon me?
The Score.
The score was Marlon Brando's last movie.
Oh, The Score. Sorry. Okay. Oh my God, I better do better research. Okay. Let me start by asking you both, what does the MPTF mean to you personally, each of you?
Well, I've been around it since my father was on the board in the 70s, and I've always thought I had 2 families in life. My personal family, my wife and my kids and
Right.
my grandkids. And then there's the movie family. As you heard, I've made over 60 films, and it's the crews.
Right.
And the cast, and that's the family, and a lot of them aren't as fortunate as others, and they need help.
Yeah.
Whether it's a resident on the campus, or whether it's financial aid, or whether it's palliative care, or whether it's our daily call sheet where we call people that are alone
Oh, nice.
somewhere, and we have, I don't know, something like 75 volunteers who call. It's on and on and on, everything that the fund does for the people that I worked with my
In the
whole
industry,
life,
right.
and we take, you know, it started in 1921, Charlie Chaplin,
Mary
Douglas
Pickford.
Fairbanks, and Mary Pickford, we take care of our own, and that was kind of, I always, as an assistant director, I had to take care of the crew.
Right.
Wow.
That's what I did, and
Right.
take care of the actors, and take care of everybody, and just kind of an outcropping, as I believe we should take care of our own, and that's why I'm here.
Great. Well, thank you. What about you, Ed?
There's no question I came to know about the fund and the Home Through Hawk because my life in film and my friendship with Hawk only have about 5 minutes of differential in them because I met him about 5 minutes after I got to the Paramount lot to screen test for Primal Fear, which was the first time I ever came to LA. So I literally mark my life in film and my friendship with Hawk there in exactly the same frame. And there's not a lot about the industry or the community that I kind of didn't first start absorbing from this guy. And I think I think all people in our trade, in some way, in some point in their life, they hold in them like the romance of the repertory theater company. You know, like we all, somewhere in all of us, we wanted to be in that troupe. You know, like the minstrel show, the playing dress up or mucking around with cameras and playing with our friends. You know, and the luckiest thing, you know, I think anybody who works in the trade knows that the kind of the secret of it, the secret of it is that we're just fucking around with our friends. You know, like we've made a life out of messing around, acting like kids.
Yeah.
And I think because nobody does this alone. The essence of it is community. The essence of the whole thing is collaboration and community, and I think the fund, it's an extension. It's a beautiful extension of the idea of the community that we've all loved being a part of.
Right.
And I think you know, I've never known anybody who loves the industry and the community more than KOCH, and I think, and to me, you know, your championship of the fund and the home and everything is just beautiful, and I think it's, you know, it's great. It's a wonderful part of our, you know, even in this crazy corporate, you know, era that we're in and where we all kind of at times go through the ups and downs, I think, of wondering what has become of this thing.
Yeah.
And how is it changing, and what is it turning into? Do we still, you know, what have we lost? What's still exciting in what we're doing? You know, that I still think showing up every day and there being that couple hundred people who are all, you know, and the truth is, we know there's a certain silliness to the way that actors or directors end up taking the attention for everybody, but the truth is, we all know on the day the hierarchies sort of disappear and everybody's
Everybody's in it together.
interreliant on each other, and it's one of the great, and it's all union. It's a union job, you know. And it's like there's a lot about it that the general public doesn't understand that we all do about the intrinsic community of it, and I think it's wonderful that there's this exists as an extension of all of that.
I agree, thank you. Talk about the day that you guys, the first day you met. You said it was after you moved out here from Boston and you were at Paramount.
Me?
Yeah.
No.
No.
I lived in New York. I was born in Boston, but I never
Oh,
really lived there.
okay.
No, I was in New York. I was a theater act. You know, I was kicking.
Kicking around, yeah.
I was doing theater in New York with Edward Albee, and I was, you know, a snotty theater actor. And I met Hawk. I met Hawk when outside stage 5 on the Paramount lot, when they brought me out to screen test for this movie, and he walked into the trailer. They put me in some little trailer, and I was trying to get my head around, get my head into the headspace of whatever I was going to do. And this guy walks in the county trailer, door opens. This guy introduces himself, says, "Hey, I'm, you know, Hawk KOCH, I'm producing the film," and my memory is, I said, "Oh, that's terrific, thank you," and he said something like, you know, Deb Aquila, the great casting director, he goes, "Deb Aquila, you know, from everything she says, it's yours to lose. Don't screw it up."
No pressure.
And that was, you know, it's like,
Yeah, well, I'll tell my side now. Because I walked in, now you can hear how Edward speaks, but as you'll see in the movie, the character is supposedly from West Virginia or Kentucky, who has a little bit of a stutter. And when I introduced to him, he said, "Hello, hi, you know," and he looked like some little waif with a stutter. And then after we did the test, and I don't want to go through what you'll see tonight for those of you who haven't seen it, but he did something in like the third scene where the other producer and the director and Richard Gere, we all looked at each other and went, oh my God. And we found out that he wasn't some kid from West Virginia, but he was a patrician kid from Columbia, Maryland, and he had studied and did all this stuff. But he had all of us fooled for the first 20 minutes.
Right. And you told me, don't take offense, that Ed was very naive when he came out here because he didn't even know what per diem meant.
Yeah, oh, you want to tell your per diem story?
Well, I very quickly I grasped what it was. That was not a tradition of the theater at the time, and I'm not even sure. I didn't have a SAG card, or probably an Actors Equity card at the time. But I at the time I had a rent-controlled apartment in New York, and it was like, I think I remember my rent was $420 a month, and I just kind of thought, there's no way I'm getting this gig, but if I can stretch it out and eat, you know, $2 eggs the whole time I'm here, I might be able to pocket like 3 months rent. You know? And so I was like, do we get it for the travel day? And, you know, and then you know, they said, well, day of rehearsal. Then we shot a test. Right. There were some funny details because the film was shot by Michael Chapman, one of the all-time greats, and I had not realized that. And when I looked at the call sheet at the time, and I saw Michael Chapman was going to shoot the test, I guess because he was working things out with you guys already. That actually made me nervous. Because he, you know, Michael shot Taxi Driver and Raging Bull, and he was in my pantheon of people, you know, who had done the cinema that made me want to be in films, and I thought, like, you know, why do they have to have Michael Chapman shooting my screen test? Like that's a blow, you know, that's a, but I remember thinking they did it, and then just to tell you like how much of an East Coaster I was, someone drove me out to the 4th Street Promenade. I was staying across from the Whiskey A Go Go at some hotel, and someone drove me out to the 4th Street Promenade, a friend, because I was supposed to have a meeting. I was supposed to have a meeting with an agent or something like that. I don't know. And when I was finished, I was on the 4th Street Promenade, and I thought, I think I can walk to the Sunset Strip. And I started my way. I said, I think it's right over there. And I started my way on foot, back from the 4th Street Promenade to the Sunset Strip. And I got to about the Brentwood Mall before I was so dehydrated and so exhausted. I had no idea where I was, and I checked my answering service, and there was messages from these guys, and I thought, wow. And then I thought, maybe I got this gig. Maybe what's going on? And then they said, you know, actually, we'd like to. It was great, but there was some things we wanted to work on. Could we rehearse? We'd like to rehearse, then spend the weekend, and then reshoot it again, right?
Do a second
then
test.
shoot it again.
Yeah.
And actually, what I thought was that's $75 times 6 days. You know, I was like, great. You know, like I thought I'm gonna, you know.
It was Sherry was head of the studio, and
Yeah.
Sherry is a huge supporter of the fund.
Right.
And it was Sherry.
Right.
We all wanted Edward, but Sherry said, I do too, but let's see him do it again. Let's have him work a little
Sherry.
harder on it.
Yeah, but she was great. I always remember the Friday afternoon that we rehearsed. I don't know. There was a lot of times I think you guys, like, to me, it's a funny thing to say, why don't you go over and meet the head of the studio before you do your test again? You know, there was a lot of things. She's like really nice. She's talking to me. She realizes I don't have a car. She does a very dramatic. Sherry was in this pantsuit. I just remember her. She wore a pantsuit
she
like a
was
movie
famous
star,
for, yeah.
like Lauren Bacall. And I remember she picked up the phone and says, "Get this kid a convertible," you know, like, or something like that. I was like, wow, I love it out here. you know, and anyway, yeah, you know, I benefited enormously from an amazing casting director, Deb Aquila, who made the careers literally of me and Adrian Brody and Peter Sarsgaard. I mean, the list of people that Deb Aquila plucked from obscurity
Right.
goes on and on and on. She's literally one of the great talent magnets ever.
And she just was working
And she-
with my grandson Cooper Koch.
Right, and she advocated for me, stumped for me, and then Greg Hoblet, the director, who was really willing to take a big swing on his film, and it was his first
First
film.
feature.
Yeah,
He'd done a lot of television.
tons of stuff, but then I had, you know, and Richard Gere, who really backed the idea of really leaned into the value of someone not being well known in this role, and Sherry Lansing, who basically said, you know, I think this is a great idea. I think it's gonna, and so the stack up of people who championed this amazing opportunity for me is
And this guy,
wonderful.
the word curiosity
Mm-hmm.
was written in Webster's because of
Right.
him. And every day on the set, as we're shooting and we take a break, he said, "Hawk, tell me now, what are we doing here? Why is this happening?" I mean, literally, it was film school 101
Right.
with him.
Well, he
Just
had the best
every
teacher
minute.
you could possibly have, that's for sure.
Michael Chapman had a very Boston, you know, Michael Chapman was a real Boston Brahmin, and he acted like a working class guy, but he was really actually like, you know, he was fancy, and I remember I was pestering him again about, you know, on Raging Bull was the first film that they created the very speed, they so that you could ramp into an overcranked shot in the middle of the shot and ramp back, right? You know, it was the first time they ever made it that you could go into slow-mo in the middle of the shot, and I was asking him, I started saying, hey, I wanted to ask you about this, and I remember him turning to me and saying, it's only the fourth day, and I think you're gonna be a real pest, aren't you? But there was a lot. It was great to work at Paramount on the lot when, you know, Bob Evans still had an office there, and I met him through Hawk, and
Right.
and they were shooting Mike Nichols was shooting the Birdcage on the stage
wow.
on the stage next
Oh,
door,
wow.
and when I realized that, I was obsessed with Mike's work, and I would in my prison uniform, I would sneak across the alley on our breaks and slip into the back of the Birdcage set so that I could watch Mike directing, and it was just it was an amazing way to a lot of the old school experience is harder to come by these days, and I was really lucky that I got. They were still doing premieres on the Paramount lot.
Right.
And while we were shooting, we would knock off work in the evening, and a lot of times we would knock off work, and I would wander over and watch the Braveheart premiere, or watch, you know, the Congo. Laura Linney was in our film, and she was in Congo, and it was a vibe. I mean, it really was a kind of a dreamy experience.
Not the same business today, is it?
Yeah, right. And we'll talk about that a little later. But so, Ed, I want to quote something that you quoted as saying in the foreword of your book, of your memoir, Hawk. Hawk is without a doubt one of the greatest Hollywood storytellers I've ever known. His adventures in the movie business are so funny and incredible that I retell stories from his career more than once from my own career. So what's your favorite story? Hawk story.
I don't know if I can pull a favorite one.
Well, one of your favorite.
I mean, I certainly I like the ones that no one else could have possibly known. I definitely like your story about Hawk was the first AD on Chinatown, and he has a great story about a shot in which a hair kept floating into the light. Faye Dunaway was backlit, and a hair kept floating, and that Polanski was getting very aggravated. They would go in and spray it down, and it kept doing and it kept floating up into the light. And he asked her if she could cut it, if they could cut it, and she said, "You're not cutting a hair on my head, Roman," blah blah blah. And he said something like, "Faye, you got like 2 million of them," or something.
2 million follicles.
Yeah, and
one hair.
things, and so they sprayed it down and they brushed it down, and then it floats up again. And in the end, Polanski walked around out of the set and came up behind her and pink like plucked her out of her head. And Hawk said he took one look at her face and went, "Lunch."
And what's great is Susie Germain, the hairdresser,
Right.
lived here. She was here, and I used to visit her here.
Oh, that's great, that's great.
On that story.
Okay, so
But then,
Hawk-
but then at the Oscars, Nicholson got nominated for Chinatown, and the others that year were Dustin Hoffman for Lenny, Al Pacino for The Godfather 2, Albert Finney for not Shoot the Moon, one of them. Anyway, yeah. So so you have Nicholson, Albert Finney, Dustin Hoffman, and Al Pacino, but the winner was Art Carney. Who played Ed Norton on The Honeymooners. Art Carney won for a movie called Harry and Tonto about an old man and his cat. And I remember, but Hawk said he was sitting behind Nicholson, who called Hawk Bullhorn because he's so loud that he never needed the bullhorn. And when they called it for Art Carney, Hawk said he tapped Nicholson and said, "Gee, Jack, I don't know what to say." And he said, "Nicholson, don't worry about it, Bullhorn. I'm a lock next year for Cuckoo's Nest."
And he won next year for Cuckoo's Nest. You
Absolutely.
remember these stories?
I'm telling you, he's got the best stories.
Okay, Hawk, it's your turn. What's your favorite Ed story? Put you on the spot sometimes.
But also, Magic Time is from Jack Lemmon from you, because Hawk's dad produced all the Neil Simon pieces, right?
Yeah.
And Magic Time was
Well,
Jack Lemmon's.
Lemon.
That was like his mantra, right?
Days of Wine and Roses, as an alcoholic, he'd take a drink and go Magic Time. But then when I worked with him on both the April Fools and the Odd Couple, he could be talking, you and I would be talking, and we'd hear roll camera, and he'd go Magic Time. He'd leave whatever we were talking about, and he'd be in character.
Wow.
And so I would always, behind the camera, I would always, in my head, I would say it out loud, Magic Time. And as we rolled the camera, I would concentrate on whatever it was that I had to look at when we were shooting.
So did you know for many years, before you even thought about writing a memoir, that that's what you would use as the title?
No,
No.
I had no idea. I had lots of titles in my head.
Right.
But Hawk, I mean, for me, Hawk's the straddle. Hawk has always been like almost like my access point back and into so many of the people that and a lot of people that I'm really glad. I mean, meeting Bob Evans, I got to meet Bob Evans because of Hawk. I got to meet Jack Lemmon because of Hawk. I got, there was a lot of people that I don't think I would have ever gotten to have the opportunity, to have that touch point with Warren Beatty. And there were a lot of people that when I was very young in all of this, and I got the benefit and the joy of getting to meet some of that 60s and 70s crowd,
Right.
that because of his many incredible journeys. And
Did you get my check? God.
Per diem.
Come on.
Yeah, he learned pretty quick. Can we talk about, the industry has gone through so many changes and shifts over the years that you've both been working. Where do you think it's going now? And what do you think of the proposed bid that Paramount is supposed to make for Warner Brothers Discovery? Is that good for the business, bad
No.
for the business?
It's terrible.
I agree.
We need less and less studios means less and less movies are going to get made, because Paramount Skydance has said that they're going to make, they're going to ramp up to 15 or 20 movies. And if Warner Brothers makes 15 or 20 movies, that's 30 to 40 movies. Well, if they join in, the most they're probably going to make is 20, 25 films between the two of them.
Right.
And it is the industry has shrunk so much
Yeah.
that I think it's a really tough thing for all parts of the business, for our crew,
Right.
for our crews, for our
Representatives.
actors, for the reps, for everybody, and for exhibition.
Yeah. Yeah.
They need movies. Exhibition needs people going to the movie theaters.
Right.
They can't just wait for a Marvel movie or one movie out of 100 that make it, like Sinners
Exactly.
or something.
Exactly.
And so I think it's terrible. I think it's corporate greed is, according to Gordon Gekko, greed is good, right?
No,
I don't
it's
think
not.
so.
No.
More is more.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree that consolidations have certainly on theatrical, on the diversity and volume of theatrical films, I think the consolidation hurts a lot. I think just to offer kind of a yin to the yang of that, if you will. I do think that we're in an era too, though, as much as we all hold, a romantic and affectionate place in our hearts for the event of theatrical film. The feeling of an event, of gathering together
Right,
and seeing
yeah.
everything. I think that it's incontestable. I think that the proliferation of platforms, you can say streamers generally, but there's an astonishing amount of work being made overall. Not theatrical films is a basket, but in total, like one thing I've seen from almost like a production point of view is that it's a real field day. Young people in the industry right now are climbing through the ranks of crews. I'm seeing younger and younger first ADs again. Why? Because there's so much being produced. And I think it has to be observed too that there's an incredible diversity of voices getting the opportunity to make things, and obviously there's been an explosion of form. Not everything's in the 2 to 3 hour film now.
Right.
We have the long form, we have the series, we have the things.
Vertical, yeah.
There's a lot going on that if you can take a deep breath and unclip yourself from the feelings that are generated by theatrical film being challenged, on a pure in terms of just an assessment of the amount of opportunity for creative people to find a way to get stories told, there's a lot of exciting opportunity and more diversity of the types of voices that are getting to tell stories, and I think
Let's hope that isn't stopped.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I'm being told to wrap it up, so I have one more question, which is, given what we just talked about and all of the changes that you guys have pointed out, what advice would you give a young person trying to break into the business today?
They have an iPhone or an Android. Go make a movie, okay? Because and for young people who are still in high school or college, take English along with everything else. Learn how to tell a story. Because if you know how to tell a story, you can be a producer, director, actor, cinematographer, anything in the art director. My favorite people were Dick and Paul Silbert, these phenomenal production designers. And boy, did they know how to tell a story. I'd sit with them listening to telling a director why this had to happen. So tell a story and then shoot.
Yeah.
Do as much as you can. And if you're any good, I think the cream's going to rise to the top.
Great. Listen, thank you both so much. This is really an interesting conversation.
Thank you.
enjoy the movie.
Thank you.
Have fun.